Yeah, very good morning to one and all. And today concept is about ambiguous grammar and how to eliminate the ambiguity in top-down parsers. That's the concept here. I'm going to deliver about the elimination of ambiguity, which is the second step when we're constructing the predictive parsing, right? And what about an ambiguous grammar? We all know what the ambiguous grammar is. Ambiguous grammar is not desirable in top-down parsing. So for the reason of that, what we are doing here is we need to remove the ambiguity from the grammar if it present. And we are now by taking an example clearly understand, you all clearly understand by seeing the example how we are eliminating the ambiguity in the context free grammar. And for removing the ambiguity, we're having some rules. What are those rules means? If we will apply one rule, like if the grammar has an associative operator. See, in the last class I explained at the concept of ambiguous, we're having two types of an ambiguities, two properties, like an left associative and right associative. And what the left associative means, the operators like an plus, minus, star, modulus, all these are all comes under the left associative operators. And if the grammar has that type of an operator like a left associative operator, then what we need to do, then induce the left recursion. In further classes I will explain what the left recursion is. And if the grammar has the right associative operator, that means what are comes under the right associative means the exponential operators, all we can call them as an right associative operators, then induce the right recursion. Here we're having two types of properties, one is an left associative, another one is an right associative. See, here we're having, after knowing what the ambiguity is, ambiguous, the definition of ambiguous, why we are removing this ambiguity. These top-down approaches never encourages the ambiguous grammar. So the context-free grammar should be an unambiguous grammar. See here the slide consisting of types of grammars. One is an ambiguous grammar, another one is an unambiguous grammar. Two types of grammars here. And from which basis we are taking these is on the basis of number of derivation trees. We are defining which one is an ambiguous grammar and which one is an unambiguous grammar. And see the structure here, see the representation, the two types of grammars. Next, what the ambiguous grammar is. What the ambiguous grammar is. And we all know the definition of what the ambiguous grammar is. From the last classes onwards, I am explaining what the ambiguous grammar is. What it means is a grammar is said to be ambiguous when it is said to be an ambiguous for any string, any type of an input sentence, any type of an input sentence, or for some input sentence. The string is generated by it, it produces more than one. If it produces more than one trees, more than one parse trees, then that type of grammars can be called as an ambiguous grammars. Here make a note of all this. It may be an more than one parse tree or an derivation tree or an syntax tree or more than one leftmost derivation or more than one rightmost derivation. If the grammar generates all of these, if any one of these, then that type of grammar can be called as an ambiguous grammar. See, here we're having some reasons to show that it is an ambiguous grammar. See, take the example here. All of you see the slide, note down the example. Consider the following grammar where the grammar is having the three rules. E tends to E plus C or E star E or ID. By seeing the grammar itself, we can identify how we can identify that the grammar consisting of an ambiguity, whatever the rightmost variable in the given production. See the production number 1. Here we're having only one variable. Here we're having only one variable. E is the only one variable here, right? With this E only overall productions are defined. Overall productions are defined in the given grammar. See, E tends to E plus C is rule number 1. E tends to E star E is rule number 2. E tends to ID is rule number 3. And by seeing the grammar itself, we can identify that the grammar consisting of an ambiguity. How it means, Means, see here, the right hand side variable is an E, right? If it appears more than one time at the left hand side, then that such type of grammars can be called as an ambiguity grammars. Such type of grammars can be called as an ambiguity grammars. Now I think you all are clear about this. See here, this E is appeared on LHS more than one time. See here, the rule consisting of two E's, and this rule is having an ambiguity problem. And see, E tends to E star E. Again, this E star E, at the left hand side, the E appears more than one time. Means we are using more than one time the variable E. So this rule also consisting of an ambiguity. And finally, E tends to E. E is directly giving or directly defining the production like an identifier. So this rule does not consisting of any ambiguity. And rule number 1 and rule number 2 consisting of the ambiguity. And how we can say that that rule consisting of an ambiguous, the right hand side of the variable appears or uses more than one time at the left hand side, then that such type of grammars can be called as an ambiguous grammars. Such type of grammars can be called as an ambiguity grammars in top down parsing. This rule, this is the syntax that we are following in an top down parser. This is one of the crucial problem we are having in top down parser. So we need to eliminate this ambiguity problem, right? And see here we're having some examples by showing some reasons in the sense we're stating and proving with an example to show that it is an ambiguous grammar. And for the example, for this context free grammar, we're deriving parse trees. See, parse tree 1 and parse tree 2. What the input string here is, W is nothing but an input string. W is nothing but an input string. W is equal to, the W is nothing but an string representation. And you all know this representation where when we will use, when to define the input strings, there itself we are using W. W is equal to ID plus ID into ID. This is the string that I need to generate from the given grammar. Given grammar is this one. E tends to E plus C or E star E or ID. Right. And see the parse tree 1 and parse tree 2. For the input string ID plus ID into ID, I generated two types of parse trees. Two types of parse trees I generated here. And if you generate more than one parse tree, then it can be called as an ambiguous grammar, right? It is proved by generating these two types of an parse tree. Get the difference between how to represent an parse tree or the derivation tree and how to represent an syntax tree, right? Get the difference by seeing the representations. This is an parse tree representation where starting with an root node of the variable. That means starting symbol of the given grammar starts with the root and ends with an leaves. The leaves should be an input sentence or input string. And what the reason number 2 is, showing that or stating that by proving that this grammar is an ambiguous, let us draw the syntax trees for this. Syntax trees. See here how the syntax trees are defined. While representing the syntax trees or abstract syntax trees, here, see, the operators becomes the root nodes. The operators becomes the parents of the operands, right? And in the given input string, plus and star, plus and multiplication, these two are the operators. ID, these are the operands. So operands are the leaves and operators are the root nodes of these. This is the way of representing an syntax tree. See here we define or we represent two types of syntax trees for the given input string from the given grammar. So here we proved that this grammar is an ambiguous by showing the syntax representations. And derivation, and by showing that, stating that we can prove with an derivation. See here we're having leftmost derivation, deriving the input string ID plus ID into ID. Here we are deriving for the input string more than one leftmost derivation, right? So this type of grammar can be called as an ambiguous grammar. This is a leftmost derivation. For the same input string id plus id into id, we are proving it in an two more than one parse tree. By representing an more than one parse tree, we are proving that it is an ambiguous grammar. And reason number 4, rightmost derivations. Rightmost derivative, more than one leftmost or more than one rightmost, then that type of grammars can be called as an ambiguous grammars. Right? For the same input string, we represent an rightmost derivation here. We derived id plus id into id in an two derivations. One, the both comes under the rightmost derivations. So finally, we are proving that this is an ambiguous grammar. And with these 4 reasons, we proved that the given grammar is an ambiguous. And see here, our top-down parser always uses the unambiguous grammars. What it means is it desirable to perform anything in the form of a context-free grammar. The grammar should be an unambiguous grammar, right? See here we're having an unambiguous grammar. A grammar is said to be unambiguous if for every string generated by it, it produces exactly one. It may be a parse tree, or it may be a derivation tree, or it may be a syntax tree, or it may be a leftmost derivation, or it may be a rightmost derivation. These are the reasons. These we are taking as an reasons, and we already proved that in an ambiguous. We're taking with an example like e tends to e plus e, or e star e, or id. Right? See how to convert this. After removing the ambiguity in the given grammar, like an e tends to e plus e or e star e or id, the final grammar is this one. The final grammar is this one. See the grammar here. See the example. Once all of you see the slide, then you can easily understand what I'm saying. E tends to e plus c. What the actual grammar is? E tends to e plus e. But after modifying the given grammar, how it is changed? How it was changed? E tends to e plus t. In the place of e, we replace t. Right. And t is a new variable here. T is a new variable here. Just making or. Why or representation means in the place of e, we use t. That is the representation that we need to understand. Right. And the next grammar, the next rule is t tends to, actually it comes under t star t. Again, that rule, it consists of the ambiguity. So play what f. That means t tends to f. For making you to understand, for making you to remember in which variable we take the in which that means in the old variable we are replacing with a new variable. In the place of old variable, we are using a new variable. Like in the place of e, we use t, and in the place of t, we use f. So for that, we are writing like this: t or f, right? And finally, f tends to id. And check it out whether this is an ambiguity or the ambiguous grammar or not. And just by seeing that, we can easily identify the given grammar is an ambiguous. Why? Because the right hand side of the variable is does not consisting of or does not appearing more than one time in the LHS, right? See t star f is directly id. See the first example. See this consisting of an ambiguity, and after removing, again I'm repeating, in the place of this e, we use t. Which place we use t? In the old variable. In the old variable, we replace it with a new variable like an t. So place t here and or make a or representation of that particular variable e. That means in the place of e, you replace t. And now it becomes t into t. Why? Because e is changed into a new variable t in the second step. Now it is a t into t. Again t into t is a ambiguity. The rule consisting of an ambiguity. So now you need to change that t. Change this t into some other variable. Now I am introducing a new variable like an f. Now it becomes t into f. And to make it as an f as a live variable, I am defining the rule for the f is f tends to id. F tends to id. and inverts to old variable, I replace the f t. So t tends to t star f or f, and finally it comes like this. Finally, the modified grammar is this one. After removing the ambiguity, the modified grammar is this one. I think you clearly understand by seeing the example. Very easy example without any confusion. We're having the grammar, and the right hand side variable appears more than one time at the left hand side of the production rule, then that such type of rules or such type of grammars can be called as an ambiguous grammars. This top down parsing is not desirable with this ambiguous grammar, so we need to change it into an unambiguous grammar. So how to change? Is there any rules or any syntaxes to be followed? The only one thing here we are doing is just introducing a new variable, and defining the production of that new variable. That's it. Introducing a new variable by eliminating the ambiguity and defining the rule for that new variable. And that's it, we done here. And we eliminate the ambiguity and we make the modified grammar is an unambiguous grammar, right? Is it clear? And now you all should make a note of one thing, that grammar is unambiguous. This is the grammar. Grammar is an unambiguous, but it is left recursive, and elimination of such left recursion is again a must. See here, see this example. From this example, we are learning an left recursive. If it consisting of a left recursive, then we need to eliminate that left recursion of such. Again, we need to do the elimination process by learning the new concept like an left recursion. With this is an output. This is an unambiguous grammar from the given ambiguous grammar. And what we done here is we modified the grammar by eliminating the ambiguity in such a way. So this is an output that we are calling output of the context-free grammar, that we are naming it as an unambiguous grammar, right? With this, are you all clear about the concept of ambiguity and how to eliminate the ambiguity in the given grammars, right? Initially, we need to identify. For identification, we are having a definition. And after identifying, how to eliminate that. Just introducing a new variables and defining the rules for that new variables. That's it. We're done from the ambiguous to an unambiguous. Is it clear? And now I'm going to the next concept, that is about an recursion. This is also a most important crucial issue in an top-down parsing. Crucial issue in this sense, this is also one of the problem in an top-down parsing. So we need to eliminate this problem. How we are eliminating the left recursion in the context-free grammars? Eliminating the left recursion in the context-free grammars. See, initially what I'm going to deliver about the recursion concept is what the definition for the recursion is and how the recursion is classified, and about the left recursion and how we're eliminating the left recursion with an example, right? See, this is the definition of the left recursion. What the left recursion means is nothing but a process that goes through when one of the step of procedure involves invoking the procedure itself. And when you'll get understand this means, by seeing an example, you clearly understand how the step of procedure involves invoking the procedure itself, right? This is the definition of the recursion. To define what the recursion is, this is the sentence that we are using for defining the recursion. But in detail knowing about the recursion, when we see the example, then you can clearly understand how we are eliminating the recursion and how the grammar consisting of the recursion. The classification of the recursion in two types. One is a left recursion and another one is a right recursion. Here the top-down parsing consisting of a problem with a left recursion, not with a right recursion, right? Consisting and problem with left recursion. So here we are learning about a left recursion concept in top-down parsing, because it is one of the problem in top-down parser. So we need to eliminate that problem and then go for the construction of the predictive parsing. Two types of recursions. One is a left recursion, another one is a right recursion. What the left recursion is? See, here we're having a syntax. Make a note of that syntax. A tends to A alpha or beta. What it means is the left recursive grammar is a grammar which is in the form of A tends to A alpha or beta. A tends to A alpha or beta. What it means is deriving the input in one or more steps. Tends to deriving the input in one or more steps. And here the A can be a non-terminal. A can be a non-terminal and alpha denotes some input string. What here we're having, right? A tends to A alpha. This tends to indication means deriving the input in one or more steps. Deriving the input in one or more steps. And A is a non-terminal. And what the alpha is, alpha denotes some input string. And here, if the left recursion is present in the grammar, then it creates a serious problem, right? Because the left recursion in the top-down parser can enter in an infinite loop. See, here we're having an representation, how it is entering into an infinite loop. How it is entering into an infinite loop. Just by seeing the structure, we can easily identify. Because A is deriving A alpha. Again, with an A, we're deriving A alpha. Again, with an A, we're deriving A alpha. Means alpha star. Alpha star. Means here, the problem, the top-down parser can enter into an left recursion, enter into an infinite loop, and this problem can be called as an left recursion problem. What it means is, the expansion of A causes further expansion of A. See, the structure says that, the structure itself defines that the expansion of A, see here I am expanding the A with an A alpha, here again I'm expanding an A with an A alpha, here again I'm expanding an A with A alpha. If I need to expanding an A with an A alpha and so on, when it will end, when I place an beta in the place of this A, this non-terminal A, then it gets end. But how many times the alpha is repeating here? It forms a loop structure. It forms a loop structure. That's why here we are defining that the left recursion in the top-down parser can enter into an infinite loop. This top-down parsers does not allow the left recursions. This is the reason why this top-down parsers does not allow the left recursion. Means this is one of the reason we're having entering into an infinite loop. It creates some serious problems when we are deriving the parse trees. So we need to eliminate this problem. Then finally, how we're writing this, the input is beta alpha star. Beta alpha star. That means it is an expression. It is an expression. And from the syntax, so from the grammar is A tends to A alpha or beta. A tends to A alpha or beta. And to deriving an input like this, to deriving an input string like this, to deriving an input like this, then finally what the input sentence we are getting here is beta alpha star. Beta alpha star means star is a clean closure, zero or more occurrences or zero or more instances of this alpha. What it means is zero or more instance of alpha. So we are defining with an alpha star, right? And what it means is the expansion of A causes further expansion of A. And due to generation of A, like this A alpha, A alpha, alpha, A alpha, 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 and so on. So we are giving with an A alpha star like this. The input pointer will not be advanced, right? The input pointer will not be advanced. If the input pointer will not get advanced, then what the problem we are getting here is, the major problem that causes here is this left recursion problem. We are naming it with an left recursion problem. And so therefore we need to eliminate this. We need to eliminate this. How we are going to eliminate this left recursion problem? See, if the grammar is in the form of A tends to A alpha or beta, then such type of grammars can be converted into like this. Such type of grammars can be converted into like this. What it means is, from the given grammar, by deriving the tree structure for the grammar, what we are getting? A tends to beta alpha dash, right? But we need to eliminate this. This is a left recursion. Here we are getting a recursive problem because it enters into an infinite loop. We need to eliminate that infinite loop. So what we are doing, we are converting it into an what? We are modifying it with an two other rules like this. If the grammar consisting of, if the grammar is in the form of A tends to A alpha or beta, then it should be converted into or modified into A tends to beta A dash tends to alpha A dash or epsilon, right? Please make a note of this. Make a note of this one. If the given grammar is in the form of A tends to A alpha or beta, make a note of this. If the given grammar is in the form of A tends to A alpha or beta, what it means is the right hand side of the variable after the what the left hand side of the variable is A, means the first variable in the left hand side, the first appearing variable in the left hand side and the right hand side variable should be, if the both should be same, if the both variables should be same, then we can identify that the given, in the given grammar, the rule consisting of an left recursion problem. Then we need to eliminate by converting into these two rules. By converting it into these two rules, means A tends to beta A dash tends to alpha A dash or epsilon. Make a note of this. If the given grammar is in the form of A tends to A alpha or beta, A tends to A alpha or beta, then we need to modify the grammar by eliminating the left recursion into A tends to beta A dash. And why we are writing this rule? This A dash is a new variable, right? To make it as a live variable, we need to define the rule for this. So A dash tends to alpha A dash or epsilon. It should not again enter into an infinite loop. So for that purpose, we are using this epsilon. For making it as a finite loop, we are using this epsilon. I think you all are clear about the syntax of the left recursion. If the grammar is in the form of A tends to A alpha or beta, A tends to A alpha or beta, then it is modified as by eliminating the left recursion into A tends to beta A dash. And what the A dash is, what the rule for the A dash is, alpha A dash or epsilon. And by seeing with an example, you can clearly understand how we use the syntax of this left recursion, how we map the syntax of the left recursion to the given grammar. See here, see, taking the first rule from the unambiguous grammar, from the unambiguous grammar, taking the first rule. This is an unambiguous grammar. Why? Because the right hand side of the variable does not appear twice times on the left hand side, right? Then this comes under an unambiguous. Now I am checking out whether this rule is consisting of any recursive problem. Any recursive problem. Yes. Yes, again this rule consisting of the recursive problem. Why? Because see, if see the syntax of the grammar. See the syntax of the grammar. A tends to A alpha or beta. What I said here, the right hand side of the variable should, when the right hand side of the variable is same as the first appearing variable on the left hand side. If it is same as the first appearing on the left hand side variable, then that such type of production is consisting of an left recursion. Now we need to eliminate that. See, here from the grammar, what the right hand side variable, and after tends to what the first variable that is appearing on the left hand side, E and E. What it means is it is mapping with the syntax of the left recursion. This rule is mapping with the syntax of the left recursion. That means this rule consisting of an problem like an left recursion. Now we need to eliminate this rule. See here we're having the syntax. If the rule is in the form of like this A and this A should be same. The right hand side variable and the tends to, after tends to what the first variable that is appearing on the left hand side. If both are same, then we need to convert, or then we need to modify the rule into these two rules. Convert the rule into this syntax. Change the production into this syntax. See here. Now I'm mapping this. This is an A, this is an A. The remaining thing is then comes under an alpha. Mapping with this syntax. A alpha or beta. Or beta. See, this syntax of the left recursion is mapped with the rule in the grammar. Right. Now I am converting this rule into E tends to TE dash. What it means is, here I am having a rule like A tends to beta A dash. And after mapping this given grammar, given rule into the format of, into the syntax of the left recursion, now beta is an T, alpha is an plus T, A is an E. A is an E here, alpha is an plus T, and this T is an beta. Now how I am converting this, how I am modifying it with modifying the rule to making it as an to making it in the sense to eliminating and left recursion means A tends to beta A dash. What the beta is T. A dash is E dash. That means E tends to T E dash. And this E dash is a new variable here. Now we need to define the rule for this E dash. And what A dash is alpha, A dash or epsilon. What the alpha here? Plus T. Plus T. What the A dash is? What A is here? E. So E dash or epsilon. Right? Is it clear how to eliminate the left recursion from the rules in the given grammar? How to eliminate the left recursion for the rules in the given grammar? Here, the in the given grammar, my rule number 1 consisting of a left recursion. How I identified that? Just by seeing the production, that means the right hand side of the variable and that after tends to the left hand side of the first variable is same. So I identified that this rule is consisting of a left recursion. Then I mapped my rule with I mapped the given rule in the grammar with an syntax of the left recursion. A tends to A alpha or beta. What is A? E. This E is an A. And what is alpha? The remaining thing in a left hand side plus T is an alpha, or this is an beta. Right? And this rule is modified with these two rules. Now see, checking out E tends to T. Now the grammar is not like an E tends to E. E tends to T. So there is no left recursion problem. E dash tends to plus. It is a terminal. So this rule also does not consisting of a left recursion problem. So this is the process of eliminating the left recursion from the given grammar for the rules in the given grammar. Make a note. Not for overall, not and at a time we are not doing for the entire grammar. Taking and rule by rule, checking out and rule by rule, we are implementing this. And this is the way of eliminating the left recursion, right? Again, please you all eliminate the left recursion for the rule E tends to, see, T tends to T star F or F. Take this rule and eliminate the left recursion. Take this rule, T tends to T star F or F. All of you note this rule. And for the rule E tends to E plus T or T, I show you the example. And you take this one. And this F tends to ID does not consisting of a left recursion. Why? Because it directly derives or defines the ID. ID is an identifier here, right? And please note this rule, T tends to T star F or F. And you map this, and by seeing this, you can easily identify the rule consisting of a left recursion. How? The right hand side variable is T, and after tends to the first appearing variable in the left hand side is T. So this rule is consisting of a left recursive problem. So we need to eliminate, right? We need to eliminate. And how to eliminate? How to eliminate? Just write the rule here and map that rule with this A tends to A alpha or beta and change that rule into these two steps. Change that rule into these two steps. Then finally check it out again. Is there any left recursion problem after modifying? Then what the final grammar is? E tends to T E dash tends to plus T E dash or epsilon. And after eliminating the left recursive problem for the T tends to T star F or F, and what the grammar is, T tends to F T dash t tends to f t dash, and f t dash is a new variable. Now I need to define the rule for that. T dash tends to star f t dash or epsilon. So for the rule e tends to e plus t or t, I get three rules. For the rule t tends to t star f or f, I get three rules. And finally, f tends to id. So finally, how many rules I'm getting? This 3 plus 3, 6 plus 1, 7 rules I am getting in the modified grammar. Right, is it clear? Most important concept, how to eliminate the left recursion. How to eliminate the left recursion in the grammar. Checking out by production by production. That means rule by rule. We need to check it out by rule, not at an entire program. Not in a single step by checking out in an entire program. Rule by rule, we need to check it out. If rule 1 consisting of a left recursion, we need to eliminate. And modified grammar is this one. And if rule 2 consisting of a left recursion, we need to eliminate and the modified grammar. And checking out by rule. If the rule does not consisting of a left recursion, then take the same rule as it is. And we can write the rule in the modified grammar. We can write the same rule in the modified grammar. Right. If the rule does not consisting of a left recursion, there is no problem in that. Just use the same production in the modified grammar. Use the same production for the variable in the modified grammar. That's it. And finally, after modifying the grammar by eliminating the left recursion, the final grammar consisting of 7 rules. 7 rules means 1, 2, where e dash is also having an epsilon. See, 1, 2, 3. And for t tends to t star f or f, we are getting 3 rules. This 3 plus that 3, 6. And f tends to id. As per in the given question, f tends to id does not consisting of the left recursion problem. So directly we're using this f tends to id in the modified grammar. So just replace this f tends to id in the modified grammar. So with this f tends to id, we are getting finally 7 rules, right? Is it clear? And make a note of this. This is the syntax for the left recursion. This is a syntax that we need to follow for the left recursion. What it means is, after identifying that the rule consisting of a left recursion, we need to map with this syntax. We need to map that rule with this syntax. Then we can write where a is what, alpha is what, beta is what. Then to eliminate that recursive problem, to eliminate the infinite loop into finite loop, we need to use these two rules. So change the given rule into these two rules. That means modify the given rule into these two rules. Then finally, we'll get an eliminated left recursive production rules. That means the rule that does not consisting of an left recursive problem. Right, is it clear all of you? Most important concept after knowing what the ambiguity is from the output of an unambiguous grammar. That means we change the ambiguity into an unambiguous by taking an example, and that the resultant grammar is, that modified grammar is acting as an input. That here we're not applying any pre-processing techniques, just I'm taking the grammar in the taking the unambiguous grammar, and I am showing that how to eliminate the left recursive problem. Right. So here I am having an statement that if, make a note of this statement, when to do the left recursive, this is the most important thing that we all should note down. One thing, that the grammar is unambiguous, right? The grammar is unambiguous, but it is a left recursive, and eliminate of such left recursion is again must. For y is to construct and predict two parsers, right? This is the important concept, how to eliminate the left recursion and how to eliminate the ambiguity from the given grammars. I explained with an example. I think it is clear with you all. And just by listening, you can't understand this. Just if you write in a book and eliminate the left recursive problem for the second rule, I can T tends to T star F or F. By seeing the syntax of this, then you can easily understand how we are eliminating an left recursive by using the syntax of A tends to A alpha or beta and modifying that into an A tends to beta A dash, where A dash is an alpha A dash or epsilon, right? And in the next concept, we are having another problem. Next concept in the sense, in the next class, I will explain the another problem for the top-down parser, that is an left factorial. Left factoring or factorial, we can call it as both factoring or factorial. And there itself, we are also having the same syntax. We need to follow the syntax for eliminating the left factorial, just by taking the examples of unambiguous grammar. Example in the form of an unambiguous grammar, and I will show you how to eliminate the left factoring, right? These are the problems. What are the problems here in top-down parsing is, one is an backtracking is a problem, ambiguity is a problem, left recursive is a problem, left factorial is a problem. After eliminating all these four problems, then only we need to construct the predictive parsing by constructing first and follow functions. So to construct the first and follow function, initially what we need to do? Initially we need to check it out, all these things, whether the grammar consisting of any recursive problem, any factorial problem, or any ambiguity problem, or any other something like if there is any need to simplify the grammar, and checking out all these constraints, and then finally get the modified grammar. And for the modified grammar, we need to construct the predictive parsings by applying or by implementing first and follow function.